This is Breaking Down Security, and I am Brian Brake. Welcome back, listener. This is Brian, Miss Berlin, and Mr. Betcher for Breaking Down Security.
Hi.
Hello.
Wow. Okay, so for those of you who don't understand, we really haven't seen each other in like 3 weeks. I mean, we had...
No, I've been going through with withdrawal.
Have you?
Not really.
Oh, God. There was some trepidation coming back because it's like, oh, man, you know, we've been on vacation like this. Because like the last couple of weeks have been nothing but audio of DrrCon, which went really well. And we had our discussion with Preston Pierce about recruiting and how to make things better. And so we thought we needed a show for this so that, you know, we could have something before we put on yet another piece of audio for Source Conference that I went to last week. So the next week's audio is going to be interviews I got from the Source Conference. So very interesting conference. Very interesting talks. Like we had Robert Hurlbut, who we've had on the show, do a threat modeling workshop. So we learned a little bit about threat modeling, and I actually learned quite a bit. Like data flow diagrams are not exactly what people are saying. Like, you know, like a Visio diagram of, you know, IP address and everything else. It's really specifically about like processes and data stores and such. So I found that quite interesting, and I learned quite a bit from Mr. Hurlbut. I would love to have him on the show, but his new job precludes him from joining any new.
What?
He got a job with a company that I can't mention.
They don't allow that?
They won't allow it. They won't let him speak. So he's finishing up the last of his stuff that he's contractually obligated towards, and then he's going to be kind of stuck for a while. So yeah. So
like those are things I specifically asked in my interview at Networks Group.
Yeah, I've gotten to the point where I'm asking that now. It's like, hey, can I still do the podcast when I'm doing interviews? If I'm doing interviews, I'm not doing interviews.
That's a good point, Amanda. Yeah. You know, if you're gonna attempt to speak or have the possibility of speaking somewhere or teaching a class or something like that, or being a, you know, ask the expert person, that's something you want to bring up right up front.
Yep. Oh yeah. I brought that up.
I didn't think of that.
I wanted to know if they minded that I cross-posted content because like not a whole lot of people know who Networks Group is.
Yeah.
I mean, our marketing kind of was non-existent up until a little bit ago, so they're ramping that up. But I'd rather like give it to O'Reilly, and like they have a huge audience, so that, you know, like they send it back to our website.
I'm sure they said no, we don't want you to advertise us. No, please don't.
Hurricane didn't want me to.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they did not like it when I posted it elsewhere. So
that's interesting. Okay. Well, you know, not going to speak ill on either company, so, you know.
I mean, it's a preference thing, I guess. I'm sure they have their reasons both ways, but.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why they wouldn't want to, but, you know, that's on them, so. All right. Well, Mr. Betcher, what have you been doing the last couple of weeks?
Working.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Bringing home the bacon.
He's still a little salty, I think, because UT did not win today. It was a squeaker. It was a squeaker. They were his football alma mater did not win. I watched the end of that game. That was heartbreaking, dude. It blew. The blue chunks.
Well, they played well. So
yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. It sucks when they lose by less than a touchdown. It's not good. Sorry for you non-U.S. Americans there. That
I thought you were gonna keep me awake.
I'm sorry.
Not talking about football.
All right, so we're gonna go on now. We're gonna talk about what we're gonna talk about this week. So, some of the stuff that I learned in our threat modeling class, I wanted to come in and talk about this week. So, this is something I'd been sitting on for a while. So, when the ransomware attacks happened, Petya, not Petya, all the other ones that had happened, it causes a lot of damage. And it causes you to often have to engage in not just incident response, but to enact your disaster recovery or business continuity plans. So I read the story from Bleeping Computer back in July about the company that they said they had suffered damage, and that the damage from FedEx or TNT Express may be permanent. And, the idea of permanent was that, if you've made package orders or whatever, that data is just gone. Doesn't exist anymore. There's packages out there that may never be delivered, or, they had to go and manually track those or do inventory to find out if they existed.
I was going to wonder, did they just buy several large warehouses to just store it in because they didn't know where it's supposed to go? Or are they, if they can't figure out where it's supposed to go, do they just open it?
Well,
I think the thing is that the packages probably arrive because the customer puts labels on them before they give them to the driver. Right. So they know where they go, but the money, right? You print out a label and all the money is digital, right? Yeah. So the invoices are lost, the who paid for what, how much this package weighed and what it should have cost, all that stuff for that period of time may be gone or in those areas.
Yep.
Right? That's the loss that they have. So what do? You go back to your customer and say, oh, how much should you have paid us? That kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, you've got, we were talking about the article is actually fairly decent. So FedEx in their they call it a 10K filing. I assume it has something to do with if you've been breached, you have to put this in for SEC requirement. Oh, that's what it says, 10K SEC filing. Yeah. So they have to, put that in when they have gotten breached. So some of the things that they had incurred was things like loss of revenue from operational disruption, bad debt expense due to inability to invoice properly. There you go, Mr.
There
Petrie.
we go.
Revenue due to a loss of revenue due to permanent customer loss. So I guess they're assuming that nobody will ever use FedEx ever again, and everyone's only going to use UPS or the Postal Service. But there was.
Do you think that many people will change?
I don't think that a lot of people have a choice, do they?
A small percentage, I think. I know that when UPS, and I worked for UPS when they went on their first strike ever, they were 90 years old at the time and they had their first strike. UPS lost a lot of business to FedEx. So I think this will have an impact, but it may be small, a lot smaller than the strike.
Yeah.
Right. Because packages just were sitting in the facilities for a week or two before they were delivered.
Yeah.
And companies shied away from, is this going to happen again?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So some of the things we wanted to talk about today was what happens if your company has to enable their business continuity and disaster recovery plans. And, some of the things that you're going to have to look for when you're doing that, and also, what happens when you're done and you're back to regular operations, but maybe you're not doing the same things you were doing before. So, so some of it, so let's set the scene. Let's set the, in Fair Verona, we set our scene. You've enacted your DR plan. You're panicked because something happened, be hurricane, ransomware, what have you. I would say they probably enacted a business continuity plan at that point. So, when you do that, the first thing you want to do is panic, because that's like one of the stages of, crisis management, is get the panicking out of the way, because cooler heads have to prevail. But okay, so the one thing that I have just learned pre-podcast here is that maybe not every company has a business continuity and disaster recovery plan. Are they a requirement, I would think, for companies, or do people just kind of use an extended incident response plan? I put that question out to the people on the podcast.
Are they a requirement? Probably not.
You got a hairball, Miss Berlin?
Yeah, sorry.
Do you need some water? We can. Okay. So, all right. So I think incident response is more of a short-term thing, whereas business continuity is more of a tactical or long-term plan for disaster or for a response. And those actually require additional things, like when I'm filling out customer questionnaires, and something I didn't realize before, but they always ask about things like RPO and RTO. which are RPO is a recovery point objective. And as we looked for definitions for these things, an RPO, it describes the interval of time that might pass during a disruption before the quantity of data lost during that period exceeds the maximum allowable threshold or tolerance. Can somebody explain that to me?
I've never had to set RPOs and RTOs.
Well, I mean, okay, so it can't just be data, right? I mean,
I don't think so.
No, it's like business operations too.
Yeah, it's operations.
Yeah.
Like they may, let's say you do business you do some sort of transaction processing. That would mean that you're potentially losing that business every minute that your systems are malfunctioning or down or whatever.
No, I get that. It makes sense for like an e-commerce website or, something where you're pulling data in perhaps, or maybe I guess it could be if you're sending data to somebody too. There could be an RPO or an RTO for that. If you're, providing a service or somebody like, like an RSS feed for like we use Libsyn. So if I'm trying to upload my files and I have, I guess SLAs come into this too, because, two parties mutually agree on how long it should take to do something, or, what happens if you can't do something. So if it takes me 5 minutes to upload my audio and all of a sudden it takes me half an hour, I could be compensated.
Loss of productivity. That's a good point.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Or
could go back to our example of ransomware, right?
Yeah.
How long is this virus or malware in the system encrypting data?
Yeah. Well, it talked about that in the document. It was like, if it's encrypting between the times for backups and, you've gone 4 hours since backed up and all of a sudden all your stuff's encrypted, you've lost pretty much 4 hours of data. And that could be a problem.
Unless that data doesn't change.
That's true. I mean, if it's just overwritten on a daily basis, that might make a change.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I guess your RPOs are set, based on, the first and the second party, you and whoever you're dealing with, your process for that. And then the other thing is the RTOs, which is recovery time objective, which in this case is the duration of time and a service level within which a business process must be restored after a disaster in order to avoid unacceptable consequences. So that sounds like I don't know, not a get out of jail free card, but it's
how much can you absorb?
How much damage can you soak before you get hurt really bad?
Yes. So typically you have SLAs,
right?
So you tell your customers, we're going to have 5 nines uptime or anything like that. And so you judge your analysis on how much time can go by before I start breaking those SLAs.
Right.
It may be 15 minutes. It may be 6 hours. Whatever you've set expectations ahead of time, that should fall right in line with your impact analysis.
Okay. So you may have an RPO, but not necessarily an RTO, and vice versa. You could have an RTO versus an RPO. So if your service is making sure that your website is up, and all you're doing is making sure your website's up, you might have an RTO of 5 nines for your service level agreement, which is what an SLA is. The agreement you have between you and your customer, or customer and you, to say we're going to be up 5 nines of the time because we have X, methods of redundancy and whatever. We can definitely comfortably do that. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, if the worst happened, we should be able to recover by whatever means necessary, like you spin up a DR or whatever, that may be a hot spare or something of that nature. 5 nines is 99.999% uptime.
How much?
And usually that's by month, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, really? So you can do, well, okay. I guess that's more, let's see, 99.9% uptime. SLA and uptime calculator. I'm going to put that in the show notes. Because I've always heard the 5 9s and the 6 9s and whatever,
Yeah.
but
You can, I don't know how much that is per month, maybe 10 minutes. I'm not sure.
it
Could be 30. Why
so
don't you do the math?
5 9s of uptime or availability per month is only 26.3 seconds of outage time.
Wow.
20, ooh, okay.
That's
you
impressive.
better have a hot spare.
You better have
ready
more
to
than a
go.
hot spare. Yeah.
Yeah, but normally you go months and months and months and months and months without
Oh, if
any
you do it a year?
downtime. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Well, I mean, okay, so does that stack? So if you go, well, we've had 99.9% uptime for 8 months, does that go, okay, well, we're good for about a minute and a half.
right,
at
even
the end of the
26
year?
seconds times 8 isn't a whole lot of time.
Yeah, because according to the website, yearly is 5 minutes 15 seconds, which I would imagine that's about as much time as it takes to patch a box. So, unless you're using some kind of clustering or something, I find 5 9s to be impossible unless you're not patching your boxes. That seems to be about the only, because a reboot would take 5
unplanned
minutes.
downtime. So you can do planned and it won't count against you.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, okay. Now, wait. How do you plan for that? I mean, how do you work that into a contract? Do you go, well, we're going to have periodic outages? Because I've always assumed that.
Yeah, you would tell your customers, okay, we're going to have a planned upgrade of whatever or something like that, planned maintenance for 1 hour on this date, and you give them a
like
week
I get
or
that
two
from
in
like my
advance,
bank.
whatever's in the contract.
Yeah, I get that from like my bank or whatever. They'll like send you an email, or it'll come up on like a login page. On the login page, it'll be this little splash of, "Hey, system won't be available from." Blah, blah,
Right. Okay.
Yeah. It usually, they'll send that to you, and it 5 9s has to do with unplanned outages,
Right.
not all outages.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and
Unless
I guess it would
otherwise
be
noted.
there'd be sub SLAs where you'd be like, okay, you didn't notify us with enough time, so that's a problem. So like tomorrow we're gonna have patches, and well, you should have told us last week. Oh, sorry,
Right,
our bad. Okay, I see. Yeah, I totally forgot about the planned outage thing. I didn't realize that was a thing. I thought that was just part of the whole uptime altogether. So, so who keeps track of this kind of stuff, though? I mean, is it necessary, and how accurate do you have to be? I mean, are you worried about it down to the second?
I mean, I'd hope the monitoring keeps track of it instead of a person.
If you advertise 5 9, it's down to the second. Yeah, either your customers need to be keeping track. You obviously keep track of that. So if you're a customer of a business that advertises 5 9s, you should have some way of monitoring that.
And I would assume letting your customers monitor it too.
Gods. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've known websites that have been down for more than 5 minutes. I can sit here and just, get on our Slack channel and miss 10 whole minutes and not even realize. I mean, that's how quick 5 minutes is. So
yeah.
I can't imagine a normal company would try for the 5 9s. I think probably 4 9s is probably a little better.
And even if you do, like say you advertise it and you have SLAs built around it, I wonder what percentage of people, if you don't hit those SLAs, even 1, notice, and 2, care if they do.
Depends on the customer.
True.
Right.
If it's you and me, we probably don't really care
whatever.
unless it impacts us and we're like, wait a minute, this thing's been down for 5 minutes. I need to get my money back or whatever for the month.
I only
You
care
can do that
when
with
it's
your
Twitter.
cable provider. Yeah.
That's funny.
But yeah, it depends on who the end users are, right? So I've worked for a company. It wasn't, hey, I can't swipe my card. It's more like, hey, I can't feed my baby, and that stuff makes the papers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's why when you do patches or you do downtime, you try to do it when you're not when you have the least amount of use from your customers, so it's less impactful. So that's why you're
right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I forgot today. I learned about the planned and unplanned outage thing, so I totally forgot about that. So, So yeah, companies ask for RPOs and RTOs all the time. At least at my company, for we're a service-based organization, so obviously we have a service that they want, and they want to make sure it's up because we're as security companies go, we have to make sure that we're maintaining that. So let me see. Whoa, somebody just copy pasted a bunch of stuff, didn't they?
That was me.
Okay.
I like in this first link in the show notes, consider the impact.
Mm-hmm.
And these are some things you need to think about when doing your impact analysis. Lost sales and income, delayed sales or income, increased expenses, regulatory fines, contractual penalties or loss of contractual bonuses, customer dissatisfaction and delay of new business plans. Those are all, that's a really good list. I think some things to think about when you are trying to come up with a potential impact.
Yeah. Which link was that?
That was not the first one.
Was that the bleeping
one?
Ready.gov. Okay, the ready.gov one. Okay.
Yeah, this is ready.gov.
Good job there, Mr. Betcher. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
I'm like,
it's my first
I'm
link.
Skimming through the first link. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know, we're lost. So yeah, no, I agree. And the other thing I would say is, okay, so increased expenses. I would also add things like what happens if you have to contract with a company to do staff augmentation, or you can't do the forensics or incident response. The increased expenses would definitely come out of that. So you have to budget for those things. Yeah.
Labor, outsourcing, overtime.
You might also, depending on this business. So this is on the page about business impact analysis, which from what I was reading, you want to do a business impact analysis before you worry about RTOs and RPOs, because you really can't do return point objectives or return time. Oh, crap. I don't want to get it wrong, and I'm going to get it wrong. Return time objectives. Without knowing what are the risks or scenarios involved for that. So finding potential, they call it potential loss scenarios, and so everything kind of.
I think once you do that, you can put things in different categories where some stuff you might not back up at all, so that's not going to count towards any of your costs.
Right.
And other things might have cheaper. Put on cheaper storage that, you lose more and that kind of stuff. So there's no way that you can do any of that, I don't think, without, you could do it without any analysis or whatever, but it's just going to be one person sitting in a room just like guessing.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. Everything I read about in the threat modeling workshop, because threat modeling is doing risk assessments, and
right.
You have to do a risk assessment before you can do a business impact analysis, before you do your RTOs and RPOs, before you create your business continuity and disaster recovery plans. All this builds on one another. If you and it's not a weak link in the chain. If you don't have one done, you're really not doing it correctly. And it seems like. And I don't know, just from 3 data points right here, I don't know if the industry does it. If it is it because it's not, I don't want to say fun, but is it just tedious, or is it hard to get people behind it to do it because it takes time?
No, it's such a low probability that it's easy to overlook.
Sure.
Right. Physical damage to a building, which is one of the scenarios. If you scroll down on the first link, that's not the first link, the ready.gov.
Yeah.
Physical damage to buildings. How would that happen? It's a shot in the dark, right?
Well, if you live in Houston or Miami, it's not really, is it?
Yeah, but how many people got stuck there? Right. When it did happen, they weren't ready.
True.
Right. For better or worse, a lot of people were stranded.
True. Well, okay, so instead of physical damage, you could also go, the physical damage to our building will also cause damage to our computer systems. So if all of our data centers are in, geographically dispersed areas of Miami and Houston, that could be a bad thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that would be something where you'd want to look at the risk assessment and go, okay, chances of a hurricane hitting us or chances of an earthquake hitting us, so if all of our data centers are in, Northern California.
I'm surprised there's not more in like Ohio and Well, now
There's nothing in
they
Ohio.
get tornadoes.
I've
I
heard
know.
there's nothing in Ohio.
There's nothing there. We have no natural disasters. It's extremely boring.
You get a
Why
blizzard.
not? I guess, but if it's just a data center, nobody's.
Right.
Well,
there
you know,
anyways.
people like to have data centers, like say, for instance, near Vegas, where power is cheap there,
Sure.
right? You're
Yeah,
next to
yeah.
Hoover Dam or whatever. However, if you run out of water, you could fry all your systems, or they would have to go down.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm
right?
guessing
so water
that
is scarce there, and that's a risk.
I would have expected, like, you know, Vegas data centers would be because it's dry there, where, you know, you can add moisture back to the air instead of having to take it out, dehumidifying a data center so that you're not, you know, corroding components or what have you. I don't know. Maybe that's why they have it out there, or it's cheaper, like Mr. Betcher
Yeah,
says.
it is pretty humid here.
Yeah, a lot of useless land out in you know, a lot of desert and jackrabbits and stuff. So, but yeah, so I mean, all of this builds on one another. Risk assessments, you know, business impact, all of that stuff builds upon one another. You know, there's some good. I got a link in the show notes about, you know, doing a business impact analysis. There's a link from FEMA.gov to a sheet that talks about that and breaks it down by timing and duration, operational impacts like Mr. Betcher mentioned, loss of sales and income, negative cash flow, increased expenses, regulatory fines. Ooh, regulatory fines. That'll get you, won't it? Contractual penalties. So, you know, wow. So some of these could actually get you hit more than one time. So if you have a outage of your, you know, website, you may get hit from regulatory fines, also contractual penalties. So some of these things could affect more than one operational impact. You could have all kinds of things happen from those. So, but yeah,
Go back to FedEx.
Yeah.
They expect to be hit with, there's a list of like 12 things.
Oh yeah.
Right. Including, they say other consequences of which we are not currently aware, but we'll discover through remediation process.
So the lessons learned, they're going to be like, okay, so we've got like 800 different points of data that we have to sift through. And, oh, look, now we've got, you know, planes got grounded because we couldn't, you know, tell the plane where to send all the packages to, or, you know, we lost X $1,000 million of fuel because of inefficient routes because our traveling salesman algorithm was down or something like that. So, yeah, I mean,
and they even put in their reputation damage, which you really got to consider that as well.
Well, isn't that the permanent customer loss? Because of lost reputation, they're going to go somewhere else like DHL or...
Well, it's going to be much harder to win customers over if you're competing against other companies for new business.
Right.
Right. Yeah. You may lose one of your customers permanently, but if you're trying and you're advertising to get new customers, it's going to be a lot harder after this reputation loss. Right.
Right. Right. So let's look at some of what Ms. Berlin put in here. It's often hard to justify the cost of DR solutions. Why you say that?
Especially if it hasn't, if nothing bad has happened so far.
Is that the insurance problem though? I mean, you buy like cyber insurance and like, why do we need it?
Right. Or like, well, we have backups. Why do we need DR?
True.
It's hard to prove something that bad could happen.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times.
And also to the reputation loss point, if you don't have a DR and then something happens where your primary site goes down and people find out, well, they didn't even have a DR. I mean, those guys are idiots. Yeah. Right. And then it goes, you know, it snowballs downhill.
Okay. So that's an interesting question. So you said, what happens if they find out? If you're doing proper third-party vendor queries, you know, or doing proper vetting of your third parties, those are questions you should be asking that party. Like FedEx, what does your DR plan look like? What is your business continuity plan? What happens if there's a pandemic? Do you guys allow your people to work remotely, for instance? Or, you know, are your data centers geographically separated by X number of miles? You know, those should be questions you should be asking third parties instead of like, oh, well, the feces hit the fan. Now, oh, you don't have a DR plan. What's wrong with you? Well, what's wrong with you for not knowing that they didn't have a DR plan in the first place?
Right.
Those should be questions you should be asking, and they should be audited for that. Like SOC 2 asks those kinds of questions, or if you're doing FedRAMP or anything like that, or PCI requires, RTOs and RPOs. I believe it's RTOs and RPOs. Anyway, they require a business continuity and incident response plans. So there's plenty of vetting to be done. Now, depending on who the auditor was, they may not be looking at it with a fine-tooth comb, but at least you can say, we did our due diligence. They showed us that they, in good faith, that they had a DR plan, and it might be, depending on how important that third-party vendor is, you might want to have a phone call with them and ask questions, not just, go on faith or go on SOC 2 that says, hey, they have one, because it could be just a one-pager on the back of a bar napkin. So,
do you think a lot of people ask, and out of the people that do ask, how many companies do you think actually supply that information?
My company does. I mean, when they ask, because, we're kind of a 24 by 7, 365. Yeah. And if they have a SOC 2, that's, usually they go, yeah, we want to see your SOC 2, because the idea is that you've actually gone through all the audits already and you've already been asked these questions. So if it shows up in your SOC 2 as non-finding, hey, they've got one, then they should feel some kind of reasonable expectation that they have it. Of course, if you're...
I think the key is that if you are a customer of another company, do you have a vendor assessment process?
Yes.
Laid out.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And that builds on builds as well. I mean, vendor assessment is also going to figure into your own company's BCDR plans, business continuity disaster recovery plans, because you may rely on that third party for something for your own disaster recovery plan. Data center, for instance, if your primary data center goes down,
contract out diesel.
Yep. Contracting out diesel.
So is the diesel truck going to come, or is he going to deliver to somebody else and you're in a lurch?
That's right. So proper third party vendor assessments build on everything, because you may have to have multiple diesel providers. And I know that that's the case for some data centers. They have multiple diesel providers. So if the guy who's primary can't get there, the secondary guy shows up. You also have to make sure that you're, speaking of disaster recovery, you have to make sure your diesel generator is tested regularly, and that you've got enough, your tank is big enough to support the load on your diesel generator for however long it needs to be. So if you have an SLA that we're going to be up for 96 hours, you better have 100 hours of diesel, that kind of thing. So.
And did you ask your cloud provider to give them, how many times do you run a generator test at your data center, that kind of thing?
Yep. Those are questions that would have to probably be as part of your vendor assessment for your BC and DR functions, because it all builds. If you're a customer, you're dealing with third and fourth parties. So, I mean, everybody's a customer of everybody else. So, it all gets around eventually. So, all right. Well, so IT people may understand the technologies involved, but do not always have the correct perspective to make a determination. So who does have the determination? I assume this is something you copied and pasted, Ms. Berlin?
It is.
So who has
out of one of my favorite books?
Which book is this?
Mine.
One of.
Oh. Somebody wrote a book.
Well, I mean, it was in there.
Someone wrote a book. Was that your chapter? Was that you wrote?
No, it wasn't.
Oh, it was a lead chapter. Okay.
It was a lead chapter. Okay. Yeah.
When you read it, you have to read it with an accent.
Yes.
I don't do accents.
Well, in your head.
Okay, I can do that.
If you can have Sir David Attenborough reading it,
right,
in the original English, that's best.
I think a group of people. I mean, just like a lot of security related things, it should be like a diverse group of different, like somebody in finance, somebody that is doing the DR, somebody in security, somebody in whatever
So it's not just a function of the IT department.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it goes with, your tabletop scenarios. You're going to have a number of different people, and not just IT. You'll have security. You'll have hopefully people from management, because they'll see this is important enough to do. You may also have legal and public relations people, depending on how big your company is, because you may have to draft a response, which is always important, especially legal. If you know that you've got SLAs and it's gonna hit the fan, you need to have them in there so they can go, yeah, this will be our response. And we don't have a response for this yet. Well, that'll be a lessons learned where you actually have to create your response for your DR plans. So,
yeah, canned response in case the press calls.
You mean
wants a statement?
No customer records have been accessed at this time
that we know.
That's
of.
right.
That we know of.
You need a canned response.
They just copy paste that from Google, I think.
Yeah,
Quick,
I would.
We need a public relations thing. Yes, we are aware of the problem at this time and are working to fix it. Done.
End. Yeah.
Done. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah,
We called a large IR firm and they said it was a state actor. So
it was very sophisticated.
We're in the, it's not our fault.
It was advanced.
We are a victim. Yeah, we are a victim here. So yeah, I mean, these are things that are, I mean, blue team folks never like doing this stuff, but it's really important because, I mean, I don't know.
You could look like a hero if something actually happened.
Sure. And I mean, as long as your scenarios are within the realm of possibility. I was just using Houston and Miami as an example because they got really hammered this year with hurricanes, but it could be in the dead of winter in North Dakota. You could have a blizzard that, knocks out power or something. I mean, or, insider threat. I think I just saw another one the other day. Some guy got canned from a railroad company because he was doing something and they didn't take his laptop and stuff. And the last thing he did before he left was he wiped all the servers and switches configurations and then said, "Oh, I quit." Basically he
snap.
So he got arrested. But I mean, that could cause a disaster recovery too. If somebody had access in your IT department or you didn't have proper permissions on, for some of your people in your company and they wipe your entire data center. There you go. You're doing disaster recovery because you have to restore from backups and hope that you've got everything. I mean,
absenteeism of essential employees, right? If you got a single point of failure,
yep.
Hey, it's in that book, The Phoenix Project, right? What did the company do to alleviate that risk?
Right. Yep. I didn't read that book. I should have.
But you interviewed the authors.
I was too busy reading Miss Berlin's book,
which wasn't even written.
I don't know about that because I didn't interview this person, so it wasn't.
All right, fine. I will.
Wow.
I will make it a requirement to read that in the near future. So, anyway, all right. Well, I don't know. So if anybody has any thoughts or questions or suggestions on that, we'd love to hear about, RTOs and how you use them in your own organization, business and impact analysis. There's some good articles in that ready.gov and the FEMA.gov for, handling disasters, surprisingly. So, they talk about all kinds of stuff in there. So
I like FEMA's site. They have a lot of good stuff on there.
Well, yeah, because,
they have like tabletops and stuff that you can just like,
really?
Take and use. Yeah.
I'll have to go poke around on that. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll have to go look that up. So, all right. Well, I don't have anything else to talk about with this. I thought we would, do some housekeeping before we leave. I've got an announcement that we need to put out for our class. Mr. Betcher, Miss Berlin, do you have anything?
Do I have anything? Hey, you should put a Slack channel up for recent podcasts, discussion on BC.
Oh, right. Well, I thought we
things like that. And
I mean, actually, I have thought about I think we have a incident. No, we don't have an incident response. We have we have a DFEAR.
Yeah, we do.
So I guess we could rename it like business continuity DFEAR or whatever. But I mean, that's getting a lot of jumbling up. I mean, there's digital forensics involved with that one. So maybe, yeah. I don't know. Anyway, so Miss Berlin, you've got some appearances coming up.
I do. I have a really busy
What's up with
2
that?
months ahead of me.
Where's this
know.
GrrCon at? Is that in Indianapolis?
GrrCon is in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Oh, GRR, Grand Rapids,
yeah,
Michigan.
Right.
Okay, right.
It's Chris and Jamie Payne.
Twitter?
Chris works.
Twitter handle?
Crap. She's Pink Nightmare. He is. It's on the tip of my tongue.
We'll get back
I can't
to
remember.
We'll get back to him.
So, right. But he does IR at Target.
Okay. Is he cool with us telling that?
Oh, yeah. He tries to hire people all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's widely known.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're always looking for people to move to Minneapolis. So, if you want to do IR, I'm sure he's looking for more people still.
Okay.
No remote?
So, yeah. No.
Yeah, no, it's
really?
It's
otherwise I would have worked there already. Yeah.
All right. GrrCon.
And then HackerCon / SecureWV, whatever you want to call it.
West Virginia.
In November at some point, and I'll be there.
Now you're going to be there. Or you're going to be speaking at these things.
I'm speaking at all of these.
Shut up! Really?
Yeah, four of them in the next 2 months.
What could be worse?
What's she speaking about?
At GrrCon, I'm giving them the 1 hour version of the 3 hour thing I'm doing at O'Reilly.
3 hour thing.
Which is?
It is called a tutorial. So
I think that title's been taken already.
Huh?
You said a tutorial.
Yeah.
That's already been taken. What
do you mean?
You probably need to think of a better title.
No, shut up.
Oh.
It is Reversing the Kill Chain, an actionable framework for defending against common threats.
Wow. Okay.
And I now am less nervous about it because I have like 10 demos in it.
Nice.
And like walkthroughs. So like you bring your laptop, I'm going to release like a list of, there's like 2 or 3 things you need, like a Linux VM, a Windows domain controller, and like a couple tools. And I'm walking through like a whole bunch of different things that you can do for defensive tactics at different steps in the kill chain for different threats.
Is there any book or anything that you can use to follow along with that? Do you have any prerequisites other than those VMs?
No. Okay. No, just that kind of stuff.
So bring your laptop and a willingness to learn.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then after that, I have this gigantic spreadsheet matrix thing that I've been going off of that I'll end up releasing.
Okay.
So that's what I'm doing at O'Reilly. And then I'm doing, what did they call it? It's not the keynote. It's like the midday
post-lunch coma.
Yeah, person. Right. It's like, I don't know. At Bsides Wellington in New Zealand, I'm doing the mental health one.
Okay, very cool.
That I gave it Bsides.
Now, what's the experts table that you're doing?
Oh
there?
Yeah.
What is that? Because
I have no idea.
Oh, well,
I just sit there. I think I just sit there like on a throne. And like wait for people to come up and bring me things.
Right.
But I mean, that's just like when I have it in my
I
head.
thought it was going to be like
feed you grapes.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be like the resume thing, like you did at Derby, where it's like speed dating or whatever.
No, I just sit there for like an hour and a half or something, and people just come up and ask me things.
Huh. Okay.
I don't know.
Whatever. In confidence.
Right on.
Maybe. I mean, I'll have my recorder on me. No promises.
Yeah, please. If you can sit down and ask get questions or.
I should just like record that whole hour.
Ask people before you do that first. The privacy laws, not America, is is way different. I don't want to piss off any New Zealanders.
No. The ask the expert thing is at O'Reilly.
Oh, Oh, I have the experts table sitting at a different thing. Let me move that on the show notes.
Unless it's something else that you've heard of that I'm doing.
No,
that I don't know about.
No,
okay,
I'm cool with that. All right.
Yeah, it's an ask the experts thing where I didn't know that I was the expert until I read the whole email.
Okay, right on. Mr. Betcher, are you doing anything? Because I want to ask if you're going to be at any cons or anything, doing anything fun.
No plans for the remainder of the year, although something may come up. But
you want to go to New Zealand?
Until...
Hey, dude, do not play with me.
I would
go to New Zealand in a heartbeat. That place is awesome. Definitely want to get down to Mount Sunday. Go climb Mount Sunday. It's out in the middle of nowhere, but that's where Edoras was filmed for the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And I did the same tour. They had a sheep farm where Hobbiton is. They got a lot more stuff there now, but when I went in 2007, they were between filmings of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, so most of the sets were gone. But I actually sat inside of Bag End, which was just a dirty hole that you could sit inside. But now they've left all the. I heard they left all the sets up, so that's pretty cool. And they have a Green Dragon Inn now, so you can go and get alcohol and stuff. So. All right. Well, since we've got all of that out of the way, I'm going to announce our class. I've actually announced it on Twitter already and on Slack. We've got several. I think we've got almost 15 people signed up already. Between our video and the actual class. So we're doing it like we've done with our previous classes, where you have attendees for the class. You go to the class with the instructor. You can ask questions and interact and what have you. And then we have early access to the videos, because the videos are not going to be available until about a month after the class. So mid-December, I think, is when we're going to put those out. But the class is Introduction to Reverse Engineering. And we asked, actually, I was talking to Mr. Hudak, Tyler Hudak, before DerbyCon. We actually firmed some things up while we were at DerbyCon. He has a syllabus online, and I'll include that in the show notes as well. It starts on the 30th of October at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So I apologize if you are not in a time zone that is friendly to that time. But we are going to allow you to get access to the videos ahead of time, and you'll have access to the Slack, where he's quite active in our malware and reverse engineering channel. So if you cannot attend the course on our Zoom, the videos will be available, and we'll record those. So it's a 4-session class. It starts on Mondays, 4 sessions, and it'll go until the 20th of November. So that's the Monday before the U.S. Thanksgiving holiday. The way you get to it, it's $100, but there's been some confusion about the payment. It's no different than what we've done with the other classes, where you go to Patreon. It's a $100 class, so you're going to pay $50 twice. So when you sign up for the class, you'll get charged $50. November 1st, you'll get charged the additional $50. So that's the way it works, because I don't want to have to deal with 2 payment systems. I already have Patreon. I don't want to have to do something like Eventbrite or whatever. And unfortunately, Patreon doesn't have a one-time payment kind of thing. So what happens is, when you sign up for the class, you'll sign up at the $50 level if you want to be a student in the class. You'll sign up, you'll get charged $50 immediately, like 50% up front. And then on November 1st, you'll get charged another $50. If you want access to the videos, like right after the class is over that night, it's $50 for those. So you'll get charged $25 twice. There's a $25 level on our Patreon. You sign up, you'll get charged $25, and you'll have access to the videos, and you'll get charged again $25 on November 1st. So I thought it worked fairly well the last time with our class with Miss Sunny and our class with McDouglas. So we thought we'd continue doing that. So I think it's going to be great. I'm already signed up, and I'm looking forward to learning a lot. Let me find the syllabus here. Give everybody a little bit of a taste.
Is there a max to sign up? Do you hit a limit and then stop?
Well, our Zoom that we're going to use for this will take up to 50 people. So if you are in the class, you have a spot up to number 50, and then at that point, I'll probably shut it off. If it gets that much, I don't know. We had like 20 people in the last class, so if we get 50 people, that'll be phenomenal. But at that point,
this is Tyler. He's done training.
Oh yeah,
a lot. Right? He's a DerbyCon trainer.
He's malware. He done the malware training the last 2 years at DerbyCon. He does all kinds of training on Pluralsight. I mean, this guy is a well-known, excellent instructor. So, so some of the stuff you're going to learn in the reverse engineering course, session 1, we're going to go into the introduction of x86 assembly, learning about registers and flags, the instructions. We're going to do some x64 debugging. We're going to learn about breakpoints, imports and APIs. Some of this stuff I don't even know, which is why I signed up for the class. Introduction to IDA Pro. So he said the prerequisites is getting a copy of IDA Pro. Apparently it's a free version that you can get. And x64debug.com, the software there. Those are the prerequisites. In addition, you'll need a Windows system to work off of. Since we'll eventually be looking at malware, it may be helpful to have it in a VM. So if you go to modern.ie, you can download Windows VMs there for like 90 days. So, so yeah, there's all the instructions are in the syllabus, which the link to the syllabus will be in the show notes. So I'm really excited about this. I'm really happy that he could take the time and do that for us. And you know, he's just a really good guy. So I'm really glad we could, you know, help him out with that. So. Right on. All right. So I think we've, you know, wasted enough time of people's time. Well, I wouldn't say it's a waste, but I mean, you know, we could have been a little more brief.
Over this last hour. I'm sorry we've wasted your time.
Yes. Apologies to you for wasting your time. I assure you the people involved or responsible have been sacked. So, Ms. Amanda, how would people get a hold of you if they wanted to talk about your upcoming travel or your, you know, con visits?
Anything. On Twitter or more recently, mostly Slack at InfoSystir. INFOSYSTIR. I almost forgot how to spell it.
Cool. Okay. Mr. Betcher, same question to you, you know, or, you know, what you've been working on, things that you've seen, malware, that kind of stuff. How would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm a incident responder, so that's my day job, and I develop a tool called LogMD at night. You can find me on log-md.com or hit me up on Twitter. I am at Betcherpwned, BOETTCHER PWNED.
Right on. Yep. So we have gotten a lot of new listeners, thankfully, after DerbyCon. That sometimes happens where they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you had a show" or something. Really had a lot of fun at DerbyCon. You know, there's a lot of good talks, a lot of good people. Our meetup, we had 40 people at our meetup.
Really?
Yeah, we had 40 people RSVP.
There were a lot of people.
Seemed like there was 40 people there.
Dude, we had a lot of people. I couldn't believe it. I mean, we filled up that lobby of the Fairfield Inn over there. I had no idea. We bought $500 worth of pizzas. So,
wow.
I know, right? I didn't actually expect it. I was just surprised as all get out. It felt like the first CSEC East I did, where it was like I showed up and I didn't know if I was going to be the only one there, and I started like sweating in weird places. And then finally, Miss Berlin and Mr. Betcher showed up, and I felt a little better. But yeah.
And the pizza was amazing. We'll have to do that again.
It was really good.
Yeah. If that isn't, if we can get the Fairfield Inn again, that might be something we can do. So yeah, I appreciate that. And
Amanda was like scarfing down chicken and waffle pizza.
Hell yeah.
That was a chicken.
It was really good.
That was really good. Yeah. I love the chicken and waffles. The buffalo chicken was actually fairly decent as well. So
that was my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. Me neither. I hadn't eaten a lot that day either. So, but yeah, if you have a chance to go to DerbyCon, even if you don't have a ticket, it's going to be in a much larger venue next year, the Marriott, which is behind the Hyatt. Fantastic venue. Bathrooms are to die for. I actually went over there to go to the bathroom instead of the ones in the Hyatt because there was just not a lot of people there.
Yeah, there were only 4 holders in the Hyatt, whereas in the Marriott, it's like 20.
Yeah. So it's. Why are we talking about? I'm sorry, I forgot.
I was gonna bring up that there was a garden hose faucet in the bathroom, but I mean, we don't have to talk about this either.
Okay, good. We're gonna go beyond this. We're gonna go beyond this. So we got some other talks we want coming up from people who went to DerbyCon. So we're gonna reach out to some of those speakers and have them come on. So yeah, it's gonna be good times. So yeah, keep your ears peeled, and they'll be coming on. So, and if you have thoughts about talks from other cons that you'd like to hear on the show, please let us know. And in case you missed them, and then we'll see about having them on the show. So, You can follow the podcast at BrakeSec, BRAKESEC. You can follow me on Twitter at Brian Brake, BRYANBRAKE. Yeah, our Slack is awesome. We have a lot of
It's like
people.
a small town.
It is. It's a nice community. Yeah.
I caused chaos although earlier.
No, it's cool. I think you actually did a good job, because what we did on our Slack was we had a general and a random channel, and I kind of was trying to keep the general channel for just general InfoSec talk and moving people to random. But I was told several times in several DMs that I was kind of a D-bag when I was doing it. That's probably because there's...
What?
You shouldn't be so mean about telling people to go to random.
You weren't mean. Man, I don't think you were mean.
No, I probably...
You were persistent.
I come off as that because I was probably doing it like 7:30 in the morning and I didn't have any coffee. So I apologize for people who might have...
Don't apologize. If you're offended by that, I shouldn't say anything.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. So Miss Amanda took the reins, of the wagon, got rid of both the general and the random, and created Hallway Con. So basically, I like to call our Slack a permanent convention, permanent security conference.
Yes.
Where we have Hallway Con, and then we have different tracks. Like we have news of the day, we have a leadership track, we have we're not even call them channels anymore. They're all tracks. We have a CTF track where we've got a permanent CTF group who's in there doing CTFs. We have career advice inspired by Miss Hacks for Pancakes and Miss Bats from DerbyCon. Phenomenal job there, ladies, from DerbyCon.
I've looked at like 4 more resumes.
Oh, really?
Like in Slack, people have sent me their stuff because I posted a link to my resume in there for people to look. I mean, mine's not like perfect, but just as like another viewpoint to look at. And I've helped like 4 more people out. Yep.
So we have all kinds of tracks in there for vulnerabilities and breaches. And the idea is you get on the Hallway Con, you've got something you want to talk about, you move into one of the tracks and talk about it. So like Python and automation and scripting, PowerShell, which Mr. Douglas hangs out in a lot. He's awesome. Red teaming and pen testing, OSINT. I mean, we've got all kinds of web app sec. I mean, we got all kinds of stuff. We've even picked up a few moderators to help us because we've just got a lot of stuff going on now. So Mr. Scott Pack and Mr. David Sybuck, who also runs our book club track, is our moderators. So they're going to help us, kind of keep people steered in the right direction. So, but yeah, you can join that at breaksec.signup.team. And come on in and join our community. It's an awesome thing. So yeah. All right, we are done this week. I just want to say thank you to all of our patron people for giving us money, tip jar, so that we can keep Libsyn happy and fed with our monies. Even if you only want to give us $1, or if you don't want to give us anything at all, that's still fine too. We have a YouTube channel where we're putting all of our trainings. YouTube.com /C-BDS podcast. That's what it is. Apparently we have a personalized link now. So we're on iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Player FM, Stitcher Network, TuneIn Radio app. We're on iTunes. Thank you for your reviews on iTunes and the Google Play Store. So that's it for this week on Breaking Down Security. Next week will be the source audio interviews that I've got. I got one from Lee Fisher from Pre-OS Security. He's talking about how to protect our BIOS and firmware stuff. And he's got some applications that he's trying to learn on that. We're going to try to get him on the show to talk about that from a security point of view, firmware security, which is important. So, that's going to be next week. So, everyone have a great week. Be nice to one another, please. And we'll talk to you again real soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.